Good morning, 7:44 in the morning. How are you? Happy Monday. Not an oxymoron. Not around here. And hopefully your weather's doing really well. Mine's doing pretty good. 66 degrees right now here in western Iowa. These are your hazards across the country watches and warnings. And it is a winter weather advisory, so be advised winter weather for the higher elevations of California and the Sierra Nevada. So interesting. High wind warning and watches and wind advisories for much of California, Southern California, up into Nevada, parts of Utah, northern Arizona. So we have a slow moving system moving through northern California. It's just bringing this kind of weather, and it's going to affect even the plains in time. Anyway, we have some heavy rain possible up there in New Mexico with flash flood watches, or I should say regular flood watches. And then also in North Carolina, so some heavy rain coming, and so flood watches here and along the coast. It's tropical storm warnings as we have a possible tropical storm Helene coming. And we have a heat advisory down there in southern Florida still. And our weather spotlight brings us to Raleigh, North Carolina, where we do have those flood watches in effect. And it is possibility of 1 to 3 inches expected north and 2 to 5 inches south. Locally higher amounts possible. And main hazard, localized flash flooding with all of this heavy rain. So keeping an eye on Tropical Cyclone 8, which could become Helene if it becomes a named storm. Here's what's going on. There's 8. X marks the spot off of the South Carolina coast with a greater, or I should say 40 to 60% chance of developing into a named storm. Meanwhile, Gordon fizzling out to there in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Here's your surface for today. There's your heavy rainfall for North Carolina, northern South Carolina, a little bit of Virginia along the border there. And then up in North Dakota into Minnesota, we have a chance of severe weather today and locally heavy rainfall too in northern Minnesota. So watch out for this area here as we have a cold front approaching in the northern plains. Here's our slow moving system that's moving into the Intermountain West. Nevada, California, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, all with chances of snow or rain mixed with snow with this storm, scattered showers otherwise. And it could be interesting. And finally, some rain returning to the plains. We have rain this morning in central Nebraska. It's going to fizzle out before it gets to, say, Omaha or me here in western Iowa. But there's some storms out there, and some of them will be severe today. Up there in North Dakota into Minnesota, that's our best chance for severe weather. Now, the dark green is a marginal risk, so it's possible Salt Lake City down to the Four Corners. And, of course, North Carolina, South Carolina could see some severe storms isolated. And if that happens, some of them could have tornadoes. There's a slight risk here, but our 2% risk of tornadoes today. That would be the eastern third of North Carolina, a little bit of South Carolina, and up there in North Dakota and a bit of Minnesota. So this is where you want to be careful today. Keep an eye to the sky and your ear to the NOAA weather radio or however you get warnings. Highs today. Well, we're still looking at 90s, mid 90s for a lot of Texas, transitioning into upper 80s, mid 80s into the plains and Northwest. Cooler along the East Coast, 70s here, and also for Arkansas and Mississippi, some 70s. And then you get into the West, and that's where it's cooling off, with our trough and with our low pressure moving into California, Nevada. This is where we're seeing our cooler weather, and that really is noticeable for tomorrow morning's lows with widespread 50s in the Willamette Valley and Northern California, and then you see some 40s and 30s. Eastern Oregon, California, into Nevada, Idaho. You get the idea. So nice cool start in the west tomorrow. 60s widespread through the plains, even some 70s in Texas and along the Gulf Coast to start the day. But then back into the 60s for the Midwest, including Michigan. Some 50s scattered in there too. 50s for Pennsylvania, 50s and 60s New York State, and then 50s all the way up into Maine. Tomorrow's surface looks like this with our slow moving system out west. Again, chance of snow or rain mixed with snow, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, east of Salt Lake City, Nevada, California. Some more of a steady rain for Oregon, Washington, Northern California, but scattered showers and maybe some thunderstorms. Getting into the northern and central plains now. And our severe threat is now western Nebraska up into eastern Montana. And then we see our system, Tropical Depression 8, bringing lots of rain still to the mid-Atlantic, up into the Midwest even, Ohio Valley. Scattered storms along the southeast. And our severe chances tomorrow. We're going to move back into the plains. So western Nebraska here, a little bit of northeastern Colorado and into parts of South Dakota, and then also eastern Montana. That's in the yellow. That's our slight risk, but even a marginal risk from New Mexico all the way up through the central plains up into the Canadian border. Our tornado threat for tomorrow, and there is a slight tornado threat up there in eastern Montana. Highs tomorrow, still warm in the plains. We're still looking at 90s all the way up into South Dakota, and mid to upper 80s for Iowa, mid 80s Minnesota, so much above average here for this part of the country. You have to go all the way into the mid-Atlantic, that rain-cooled air for North Carolina, Virginia, parts of Kentucky, up into Ohio, Pennsylvania, 70s here. And then the west is still chilling with our slow-moving storm. And then we have our 48-hour rainfall. This is rainfall ending Wednesday morning. So the big winner, North Carolina, South Carolina, are the biggest loser, maybe. But some very heavy rainfall here. You could see 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in spots. So that's obviously why we have those flood watches up. Four Corners area, so say parts of Colorado into northern New Mexico, 2, 3 inches of rain possible in places here. Some of the heavier rainfall in Nevada, which I think they'll take that. Eastern Oregon, Idaho, into Montana. So, I mean, scattered amounts, perhaps 1.5 to 2 inches. And then you see the severe weather threat today, North Dakota into Minnesota, and some heavy rain coming in with that. Looking ahead to Wednesday. Heavy rain, flash flooding possible for parts of Montana, the eastern slopes of the Rockies up there. Could see snow continuing for parts of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, near, again, Yellowstone. Nevada, California also with some pockets of mix of rain and snow. Still see quite a bit of rain, or at least scattered rain, mid-Atlantic, up into the Ohio Valley, and then down into the southeast. And our plains rain slowly moves east. I mean, that system that's in the west is moving very slowly, kind of a cutoff low. It's moving very slowly to the east, but as it does, will increase the rain chances more into the plains and approaching the northwest. Highs on Wednesday, or I should say Midwest. I catch myself on those misspeaks sometimes. Highs on Wednesday, still hot in Texas, mid-90s. But yeah, you got Dallas at 96 and Phoenix at 94. All right, up into the plains, 80s here, 70s again for the east, and then the west is still the coolest. Real quick, well, we'll see how quick. Well, let's get into the GFS model. Starting with this morning, here's our Tropical Depression 8, or whatever it is. If it gets named, it'll be Helene. I don't know if we're going to quite make it. But Tropical Depression sounds about right. And a few showers up here in the northern plains. And with our slow-moving low in the Intermountain West, seeing a little bit of showers to start the day today. As we go through the day, we see our tropical low moving into the Carolinas with the heavy rainfall. We see a little bit of rain here too, New Mexico, Colorado. And here's our little bit of snow for the Sierra Nevada of California and Nevada. And then we see our big storms later on this afternoon up here in North Dakota, Minnesota, with, a few showers here in Nebraska, South Dakota. As we go through, this would be midnight tonight or close to it. Our low moving into South Carolina with the rain into North Carolina, Virginia. And then we see our heavy stuff up here in the northern plains and into Canada, eh? And then our system, slow moving system in the Intermountain West with rain and high elevation snows. As we get into the day tomorrow, we see lots of moisture here for the mid-Atlantic. More showers busting out. Eastern slopes of the Rockies from New Mexico through Colorado into Wyoming and then back behind the system, seeing pockets of snow in here near Yellowstone with also pockets of rain. Another system approaching the Pacific Northwest with some rain moving into the Oregon and Washington coast. Look at that snow, though. That's pretty good here in Wyoming, Yellowstone, and south. And then as we go through, this is Wednesday. This is Wednesday. Wednesday morning, that snow here, heavy rainfall, for parts of Montana as our low lifts to the north. And so our cold front that's getting pushed eastward isn't getting much of an eastward push. As the low lifts northward, the cold front is kind of moving very slowly east, but it is moving slowly east. So we're seeing more showers now moving into the plains and possible Midwest. Still dealing with some heavy rainfall here in New Jersey. This is Wednesday morning. And as we go into the day Wednesday, our low in Montana dumping lots of rain. And then our cold front out ahead of it with some showers and storms in parts of the, where I live, along the Missouri River, near the Missouri River. I'm 40 minutes from the Missouri River. Anyway, some snow still coming down Sierra Nevada as we're looking at early Thursday morning into Thursday now. And we see our low way up in Canada, but showers, Minnesota, Iowa with that. And then things start to quiet down a little bit as we get into, say, Friday the 20th. Now, I want to go fast because I want to watch this area up here because we're still looking to see if we're going to get, here's a nice low in the plains as we get into the 22nd. But I want to look northward to see if that cold front's still coming by the end of the month. We want to look for the models being consistent on that. So as I zoom through this, we see a system move through the Pacific Northwest, which might open the door for that cold front. Well, here's another one. That's a lot of snow up there on the 28th. Again, that's a long ways out, so we'll take it with a grain of salt. And look at that. Our cold plunge is not here anymore. So this is why, we look for model consistency before we jump all over that stuff. But it's interesting to see what may happen in the future. But this is October 1st. We'll see if that happens. Some pretty heavy rainfall there into West Texas. All right, enough of that. We'll go to 6 to 10 day temperatures. And right now we're looking for the cool area to be where the low is going to be slow moving. Bullseye, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah. Warmer than average temperatures, a good bet for the Great Lakes, but really through the center of the country as well. And down in Florida, where they just have those persistent heat advisories down around Miami. Precipitation-wise, rains returning to the northern plains into the Midwest, and even central and southern plains with above average chance for above average precipitation and a slight chance for above average precipitation too. We see that in the mid-Atlantic down to parts of the southeast. All right, that's a quick look, 14 minutes-ish look at your forecast as we get into the new work week. Really appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in the Weather Mike. We'll see you tomorrow.